We hear the term everywhere. We see it on advertising. We see it on packaging. You can't go through an aisle in Costco or a grocery store without someone somewhere being bombarded with the latest superfood trend. So today I really want to cut through the hype that's out there around superfoods. And if you like this episode, make sure you hit the like button or subscribe so you don't miss any of this fun stuff. All right, let's get started. There is no such thing as the term superfood. It's one of those that was made up. We make up terms to make it sound super, but there is no definition of a superfood. There are no qualifiers for calling something a superfood. So what do I consider a superfood to be? Well, kind of number one. My rule of thumb is it should be nutrient dense and calorie sparse. In other words, the more cool nutrients that you can cram into a food with the least amount of calories that you're going to absorb, the better. Now, you'll notice I say the least amount of calories that you're going to absorb. Believe it or not, a superfood ought to have calories or other components that your gut buddies want to eat. And if you follow me, you know that the happier we make our gut buddies, the happier and healthier you're going to be. And if we spend our time making sure that we're eating what our gut buddies want to eat, the better that food is and the more super it is for your health and your gut buddies' health. So what else makes it super for your gut buddies' health? Polyphenols. I have videos on polyphenols. I write books about polyphenols. Polyphenols are essentially protective compounds that plants produce to protect themselves and their fruits from damage, primarily sun damage, but also insect damage from harsh conditions. The easiest way to describe polyphenols are all those fantastic orange, red, yellow, dark purple, blue colors that you see on brightly colored fruits and vegetables. You probably didn't know it, but that beautiful foliage that you see every fall, if you're lucky, is actually the polyphenols that were in the leaves, that they were there all the time. You just didn't see them because the chlorophyll, the green, was covering them up. And as the leaf died, the chlorophyll disappeared, and you're left with those beautiful polyphenols. Now, we've known for years that polyphenols are not very well absorbed by humans. We kind of thought, well, so much for that. In recent years, we've discovered that polyphenols are really one of the favorite foods of our gut buddies, of our microbiome. They love this stuff. These are prebiotics that they like. And the more polyphenols we give them, the more they convert those polyphenols into absorbable compounds that we can then use to protect against oxidation, to protect our mitochondria. And so it's kind of a win-win. But our gut buddies are the go-between. So if we give them polyphenols, they'll make polyphenols available for us, and we'll benefit from it. So, for example, extra dark chocolate is loaded with polyphenols. Yes, there is sugar in there. More bitter, more better. The bitterness are the polyphenols. So I like you to ramp up the percentage of cacao in the chocolate you're eating. I personally eat 85 to 90% dark chocolate. Very little sugar. But I'm getting all those polyphenols. For instance, coffee or tea is chock full of polyphenols. Plus, there's no calories, but you completely ruin it by putting in all that glop, all that milk, all those creamers, all those frappuccino stuff. So you completely negated any benefit. It's interesting that both the British and the Japanese and Chinese consume tea. And it really doesn't matter whether the tea is fermented, like the British, or it's not fermented, like green tea, like the Japanese. But the difference is the Brits, and I've lived in London, put milk in their tea, and that completely binds the polyphenols, whereas the Japanese and Chinese drink their tea without these things. They get the benefit, the Brits don't. Sorry. Now, how about some superfood myths? Goji berries. I admit, I was a goji berry fan. I promoted them. One of my patient's sons has a goji berry company, and I even had his package of goji berries in my office to show to patients. Imagine my surprise when I really dove into where lectins are hiding, that goji berries are not from China or Tibet. They're actually a Native American plant called the wolfberry. And during Columbian trade, goji berries were taken to China in trade, and they grow extremely well. Bad news, goji berries are part of the nightshade family, and they're present in, the lectins are present in goji berries. And it's every so often I find one of my patients where I can't find why they still have leaky gut. And invariably they've been on a goji berry trail mix or having goji berries in their smoothie because they're a, quote, superfood. Again, goji berries have polyphenols, absolutely, but they come with a delicious side order of lectins. So they're not a superfood. The same way with a tomato or a pepper. There are some fantastic polyphenols in tomatoes and peppers, but the peel and the seeds have lectins. And isn't it interesting that the Italians refused to eat tomatoes for 200 years after their native son Columbus brought them back to the old world? That's because they knew of the dangers of nightshades. And to this day, Italians will not make tomato sauce without peeling and de-seeding the tomatoes. I enjoy telling the story that my grandmother on my mother's side was French, and she made my mother peel and de-seed tomatoes before she served them to us. Even sliced tomatoes in our household were peeled and de-seeded. And the first time I ever had a, quote, a normal tomato slice was in college at Yale. And I thought it was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen because there were peels and seeds. It was the first time I'd ever encountered it. So these wives' tales, which have been passed down for centuries, have been forgotten in our effort to have a superfood like a tomato. How about a replacement for goji berries? Personally, mulberries are a superb replacement. You can often find them in farmers markets. You can find them dried. I have a mulberry tree in my backyard in Santa Barbara, and once a year it produces some pretty doggone nice mulberries. I might add that it only produces them once a year. And one of the things we know about hunter-gatherers is they only eat fruits in season, and they only eat them 1 or 2 times per year when they become available. They do not have 365 days of superfoods coming into their diet from the same source. They mix it up. And the more research we do in polyphenols, the more we realize that it's this variation in mixing up the polyphenols that allows different gut bacteria to thrive. And the more changeable and diverse you have of a gut microbiome, the better off you are. So mix it up. All right, how about sprouts? Well, I hope you know that alfalfa sprouts contain some of the worst poisons ever discovered by mankind. So please, 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 don't throw the healthy alfalfa sprouts on your salad. Sprouts in general, sprouting grains, sprouting seeds, the newborn plant is at its most vulnerable. And plants increase the lectin content at the time of sprouting to prevent primarily insects from eating them, or larger animals. And isn't it interesting that one of the most popular sprouted breads, Ezekiel bread, is probably, in my patients, one of the worst for them because they're sprouted grains. Please, please, please stay away from sprouted grains. Well, what about sprouted beans, like mung bean sprouts? Now, I do have a number of patients who do react to the lectins in beans, and mung beans are one of them. But once the baby gets bigger, then the effect becomes less. But if you know we're dealing with an autoimmune condition, and 80% of my patients have an autoimmune disease when they come to see me, stay away from the sprouted beans as well. Finally, there are alternatives. I know the broccoli sprouts, the radish sprouts are in. And yes, there are some really cool compounds in cruciferous sprouts, particularly a really interesting sulfur-containing compound called sulforaphane. But you can still get these compounds in the whole foods like broccoli, like radishes, like radish greens. And quite frankly, these sprouts are incredibly expensive. And you don't get the benefit for the money. So put it back and get yourself a bunch of radishes or get yourself some broccoli florets, and your money will go a whole lot farther, and you'll still get the benefit of what you're looking for in these super sprout foods. Finally, chia seeds. This is a lectin alert, folks. Chia seeds contain lectins. Please, please use basil seeds as an alternative. They don't contain lectins, and they have far more polyphenols than the chia seeds, and they'll behave the identical way as chia seeds. Chia seeds are not a superfood. Some of my favorite superfoods, I've said this over and over again, I have yet to have a salad in the south of France or in all of Italy that does not have 1, 2, or 3 forms of chicory in it. What the heck is chicory? Well, the most common one that we see now in almost every grocery store is that dark red ball of lettuce called radicchio. And it's not a lettuce, it's a chicory. And it's loaded with a prebiotic fiber called inulin. And that dark red color or purple color tells you it's also loaded with polyphenols. Now, luckily, we're seeing more of these available. There's a whole family of radicchio. There's Treviso, a long, narrow one. And a lot of the higher-end stores, like Whole Foods, are beginning to stock these. Frisée, that frizzy stuff, is in every salad I've ever had in Italy and the south of France. Belgian endive is another chicory family vegetable. And it's at Trader Joe's and it's in most grocery stores. I use Belgian endive, if I don't put it in my salad, as a dipping chip for guacamole or for properly prepared hummus. It's a great way to get inulin and polyphenols and avocado into your mouth. So the chicory family is my version of a superfood. And let me tell you, gut buddies, just think the chicory family of vegetables is the best thing they could possibly eat. All right, well, how about fruits? There are some really great fruits out there that, luckily, only ripen once a year. Passion fruit. Passion fruit is one of the great sources of polyphenols and fiber that you can eat. Now, they are expensive. It is a treat that is served in Europe, and I happen to have passion fruit vines. They're actually pretty easy to grow in a lot of parts of the country. My passion fruit vines don't like me very much, but I get a nice crop in the fall. Some farms will give all year round. If you don't have that, kiwis. Kiwis are probably the best of the fruits that you can eat, but eat the skin. Slice the ends off and eat it like an apple, skin and all. It'll take a day or two to get used to that funny feeling, but the skin contains a lot of great fiber and polyphenols. And kiwis have been shown in Australia and New Zealand to have this sort of fiber that a healthy gut microbiome loves. Fun fact, if you can find the little golden kiwis, those are even richer in these compounds that support your gut buddy growth. And we're seeing these more and more available. So if you see them, buy them. They'll be a great addition. Finally, radishes and other root vegetables. You'll learn in the gut-brain paradox that root vegetables and tubers have their own microbiome. And that microbiome is actually really useful in teaching our immune system to not be worried about certain nasty bacteria that can lurk in our colon that produce lipopolysaccharides, LPSs, and you know what that stands for. It turns out that these root vegetables are loaded with LPSs. And you go, whoa, I don't want to eat LPSs. It turns out that it's the way we encounter LPSs that make all the difference. If we eat LPS-containing foods, we educate our immune system that we do not have to fear them and that they are a part of us. And it's amazing what you'll learn in the gut-brain paradox about how useful eating root vegetables and tubers are. So add these to your diet. When you buy them at the farmer's market, just scrape the dirt off. Don't wash them. We had victory gardens when I was growing up and when my kids were growing up. We always pulled a carrot out of the ground, brushed it on our pants, and ate it. Nobody screamed. Nobody got the antiseptic wash to kill all the bacteria. Do that again. You need these soil-producing organisms in you to train your immune system. Bonus tip, if you want to put something on your pasta, and please make it a great pasta like a sorghum pasta or a millet pasta, get yourself some pesto. Preferably make it yourself. It's really easy to do in a food processor or a blender. All you need is fresh basil, olive oil, pine nuts, and true Parmesan cheese, Parmigiano Reggiano. Throw it in, blend it. It is such a great way to get so many interesting good fats, good polyphenols, good oils into you, and you get the benefit of a fermented cheese, Parmesan cheese, which is loaded with actual polyamines like spermidine, which will promote autophagy in you.
More amazing episodes just like this one. Watch now.
Your immune system sees those pieces of mitochondria and literally panics